Hmm? Ah!
You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode is the horror film Alligator, directed by Lewis Teague and released November 14th, 1980. That's right, Alligator, right? Is that what? No.
So the jokes are already starting, so I know this is going to be a lot of fun. I had a feeling it would be. As I said before, I think it was last week, we've been covering some really dark movies lately, ones that had a lot of great conversations. However, we needed something a little lighter, and so I've been holding on to this one for a little bit, hoping we would do it soon, and we're going to do it this week. It's actually called Alligator.
That makes way more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the films that kind of came out of this whole Jaws phenomenon. Everyone was trying to do their own version of a movie. In this film, though, there were things in it, honestly, that reminded me of Chud more than Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
I had a bunch of things that reminded me of that. This is the first time that I realized in the number of times I've seen this movie that it's actually Ramon. It's Marissa's alligator, the baby that her father flushed down the toilet, that comes back to terrorize the city.
Yeah. Ramon's got a vengeance. He's
very angry.
Mm-hmm.
He's been bunching on some things that have made him grow at a much larger capacity, or basically he's a much bigger alligator than he should be. But I guess that happens to you when you consume all these animals that had been injected with growth hormone.
Yeah, that's what happened to me when I did that, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's one thing I'm going to point out before we get started. Like in Jaws, the animatronic alligator that they used was often doing the same thing. It was malfunctioning a lot. So in the end, once the movie was finished, they donated it to the Florida Gators as a team mascot for college
that's
team.
Fun. I wonder if they still have it.
I don't think so. But that's probably not. Probably one day they went to turn it on and it just didn't turn on, and so they decided to let it go. Or it's in some closet somewhere.
Could be. Yeah, that's scary to think that it was malfunctioning as many people and children that they threw into that thing and through the filming of this movie.
Oh, yeah. I wondered if you were going to bring that up. There's so much to talk about in this one. And by that, I mean there's so much that I know that you are going to rip to shreds or laugh about or joke about. And I'm okay with it because this movie, it's not an Oscar award-winning film. It's just meant to be good fun. And I think it serves that purpose.
We were due to have just like a goofy movie that we don't have to take serious and get into deep conversations about. And instead, I can make all kind of pop culture references and jokes and puns, because those are great episodes for me too.
Yeah, and it's too bad that we don't release video on this, because then everyone would get the benefit of me rolling my eyes for the 100th time with the 100th pun.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get started the way we always do with some production notes. Alligator, not Alligator, was filmed in and around Los Angeles, including the usage of tunnels beneath the city.
Yeah, the Los Angeles River is impossible to miss. You're like, oh, that's exactly where that is.
The story was written by John Sayles, who was inspired by the urban legend regarding alligators in the sewers and what would happen if they were exposed to growth hormones. Sayles is also responsible for screenplays for other gems like Piranha, which we will cover. I'm looking forward to that one. That'll be another one that you'll probably tear to pieces, but it needs to happen. And The Howling, which is a cult classic. There are a couple of different taglines that were used to promote this movie. The first one is, "Beneath those manholes, a man-eater is waiting." And the second is, "It's 36 feet long, weighs 2,000 pounds, lives 50 feet below the city. Nobody knows it's down there except the people it eats."
I like the first one better. That second one's too wordy and there's way too many numbers.
I had a feeling you'd say that. I like the part, though, that is, "Nobody knows it's down there except the people it eats." I think that's kind of funny. So the budget for this one was $1.75 million, and it grossed $6.45 million at the box office, which at the time, I mean, if you look at it, it made back its money and more. I don't know what it would look like with inflation, but I think, that's pretty respectable. It did spawn a sequel, which we can also cover, and I'm interested.
Oh, God, it really did?
It did.
I didn't look into that. I should have. I thought, as I was watching the end of this movie, I was like, oh, let me look up and make sure there was a sequel, and then I forgot to do it. So, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because, I almost had a joke of being about, oh, no, there's another one at the end. It's like, now it's time for alligators.
No, that's what they did with Anaconda. Anacondas. No. This one's like Alligator 2. And it's not following the same characters at all. It's all sort...
Electric Boogaloo.
No. No, definitely not. There's no dancing in this one.
To Alligator. Got it. No.
Oh, man. How many more of these do you have written down?
That's it. I don't have any written down. That's just off the dome. But
yeah, that's what happens when we start talking about movies.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I say just instigates something to come out of your head.
Return of the Alligator.
No.
Alligators in the Hood. There's
no. It's not that at all. It's called Alligator 2: The Mutation.
I like mine better.
Okay.
Alligators in space.
I feel like I should make a mock-up poster for you.
Alligator versus Jason. All of...
Pake, you're going a little too far there. I might have to use the panic button and call a certain person and let him know that you're off the rails.
I don't know. Zoran might be with me on backing Alligator versus Jason.
I don't know about that. So... Alligator was 94 minutes long. Pake, now you can talk. Bring on a synopsis.
All right. A pet baby alligator is flushed down a toilet and survives in the city sewers. 12 years later, it grows to an enormous size thanks to a diet of discarded laboratory dogs injected with growth hormones, and now humans have entered the menu.
Please tell me that you wrote that. Because it's so clever. It sounds like you.
That is full IMDb. Oh, whoever did that.
But it sounds like something you would write. Now humans have entered the menu. That totally sounds like something you would come up with. Are you sure?
Yeah. Maybe I wrote it for IMDb and then was really drunk and forgot. That's maybe. Who knows?
Oh, man. As I said before, I did not realize that Ramon was the alligator in the sewer. I did not know, and found out while I was watching it this time, and it just surprised me. I'm like, what? So yeah, Ramon.
All right. So as we do with every movie here, we'll break down character by character. This is one of those, again, that's kind of mainly one character. However, as much as I have on David, I have a lot on Marissa. More than a lot of the, main women in movies lately. So, she had more to do.
She did have more to do. And in these movies, that is just not something that's super common. I feel like they're just there as, eye candy or just to be on someone's arm or to be helpless, waiting for someone to come in and save them from the big bad monster.
And then because a lot of my notes are very just jokey and talking about other things happening and things that I find funny, I have a ton of notes about just other people that are in this movie. All of this, like, side characters and bad characters and
there's
characters.
One character. There's one character that that I have notes on. And it's just, honestly, it's quotes and comments about the way he said things. Because I thought it was so bad. I'm like, you have no charisma.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I feel like I might know who you're talking about. And then we'll talk, like, the monster, villain, whatever at the end. So, I mean, our buddy Ramon's going to have lots of notes as well. He might have the most.
But is he really the villain?
No, and I have some notes about that too, but we'll get to that.
Because I don't see him as the villain, so I feel like we're going to have discussions.
Yeah. The creature, the monster.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should start with Detective David Madison, because that seems like the place to start. I just remember, the first time we see him, because yeah, he's not really the first character we focus on.
We actually meet someone else first.
Yeah. But we'll talk about her later, probably after this. So yeah, so where we pick up with David, I go, wait, Ed the disappearer, vacuum specialist, is a cop?
I had a feeling you'd bring that up.
Yeah. People know me. I love some Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and El Camino, that whole world.
Yeah. Knew that you would do it.
That was, because I think Robert Forster, El Camino was one of the last things he did. The last things he filmed.
Yeah. It was one of the last things. He had a couple of things.
Playing that character.
There was a couple of things that came out after, but not very much. Because he passed away. Was it, I want to say, it was like fall of 2019, he passed away.
Mm-hmm. I don't know for sure, but that sounds right. But yeah, I liked David a lot. Did he have some weird misogynistic moments? Absolutely. It was 1980. Who didn't, right? Now,
but he also dealt with some stuff. I feel like there were multiple people that pointed out his receding hair.
Yeah, I have a note where it's like, you see him respond. He's like, what is it about me that says I want to keep hearing unsolicited advice about my balding and my hairline? Like, why does every random person I meet have to say something about my hair? Shut up.
I know, there were 3 separate times that people brought it up to him, and I'm just like, at what point do you just say, shut up? Like, I've had enough. Right.
Well, then he does with Marissa, where he's just like, I'm insecure about it. Don't bring it up, please. And she's like, oh, okay. Which that takes a real man to just say, hey, I'm insecure about a thing. Let's not talk about it. Not too many men will do that, so I'll give him credit for that.
No, especially not at that time either. So that was interesting to see, because I wasn't, the first time I watched it, his character is, he's not super complicated or anything, but he does have these hang-ups at times, like especially about the hair. And it starts right with the guy that's working, Gutchell, who's working in the pet store, because he's gone to buy a dog because his other dog disappeared. I wonder where his other dog went, Pake.
I don't know. He might be closer to the answer than he thinks. Yeah.
I couldn't believe the price either. It was like $15.90 for that dog.
Right.
It's like, okay.
Can I go back to the 80s just to buy things? And bring them back?
Imagine how much further the dollar goes.
Right. I'm rich. But yeah, I liked David. One thing I really liked about him is his sarcasm and his sense of humor and his wit. Obviously, I'm sure you figured I would. Just very and because it's like a very quick kind of humor to where the jokes that he would say, you'd miss them if you're not paying attention. I don't have a whole list of them. It's really I just picked up some of the early ones that I really loved. A very underrated joke that just kind of goes right under the radar is when he's in the sewage area and he's talking to the guy who's, cleaning up bodies. And he's telling the story. He's like, oh yeah, one time we found just a toe. And then he's like, but then once we found out who it belonged to, who it was, we had a funeral for it. Yeah, we had a whole funeral and everything. And he just goes, must have been a small casket. And I just, oh.
I wrote that down too because those are some of the clever little funny lines that are in this movie.
Yeah, and then when Gutchell's leg washes up and he has to go back, and he says to the guy, I might have to open up a spare parts shop if this keeps happening.
And you knew that David knew who it was because when they fished the shirt out of the water, it's like, okay, yeah, it's Gutchell. It's like, couldn't have happened to a worse person. Thank you so much for that. But
just those quick wit jokes, I was like, I like the cut of David's jib, for sure.
Yeah.
And then I made my own jokes because, we find out the initial arm or leg or whatever, I think arm that they found when he makes that toe joke, belongs to a guy named Ed Norton. Which I was like, because then he goes to like one of the other sewage guys. He was like, so you're a friend of Edward Norton's? And I was like, he's like, yeah, because I need Fight Club explained. And you better start talking.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't think that arm or that arm's not going to say very much about Fight Club. It's not going to do any more fighting, that's for sure.
Yeah. But on a serious note, we kind of learned through him talking to other coworkers and his captain and stuff. Yeah, well, really, there's also this journalist, Kemp, who just had it out to try to get his face punched with all the things he would say. But we learned that David's got this, like, classic traumatic experience with the death of a former partner. Name any movie detective who hasn't had that. All right.
I know. There's always the backstory of the sad history of something bad happening. Either the family has died or the partner has died or he made a bad decision that got people killed. I mean, those are the types of things that happen in these movies.
And then his captain's like, it's been 5 years. And I'm like, yeah, it's like ancient history at this point, right? Like, how do you even remember an event after such an incredibly lengthy period of time?
And yet they do.
5 whole years? Psh, you're a whole different person. How can you even remember the guy's name? No.
But he does.
Yeah, but then, so we learned that a lot of the cops and detectives and stuff are very standoffish of him. Like, he's almost cursed. Where it's like this story of his past. So nobody wants to work with him.
Yep.
He's like, come on, anybody want to go on an adventure in the sewers with me? With, where dead mutilated bodies keep popping up? Nobody? No one? Fine, you, Johnny Lawrence, you're with me. I'll take you. You can sweep the leg.
Oh my God. Oh boy.
Yeah. And then as they're trying to leave before then, at first it was kind of weird. I like that they did bring it full circle, but I was like, what's with the guy trying to bomb the police station with a radio? It was very random. And he's like confessing to the sewer murders. And I was like, please, you could never be Ramon.
No, you're way too small. You don't have thick skin.
But it's weird because I feel like not every town or every city, but like you see, because I've seen that as a story in like Brooklyn Nine-Nine maybe did it, or like different stories and stuff over the years where like there's always some person who turns themselves in for crimes that they didn't commit because they're just kind of like off their head a little bit.
Always. Always.
Because I think he's credited as the Mad Bomber.
Yeah, I found that kind of... I'm like, okay, so this only exists so the bomb can get into the building. Like, it's the only reason.
Yeah, it's just that story, because it was like, yeah, it was so random. So when it came back, because I was like, oh, and then that's why the methane gas comes back up, and then it's like, okay, we're going full circle on some things. Makes sense, because at first I was like, I don't know what that scene was about, but sure. But yeah, a lot of like the attack scenes and stuff, I actually have end notes for the alligator, so I'll skip over some very important scenes, but don't worry, I didn't forget about them.
There's too many humorous notes for you to bring up, so you can't not bring them up.
Right. Yeah, but David and Kelly are down in the sewers looking for the alligator, And when it does appear, I was like, man, the award for slowest facial reaction to an alligator attack goes to David Madison. Like, it jumps out at Kelly, and he's like, ah! And then he, like, sits there and stares for, like, a few beats, and then goes, oh! It's like, things gone by now, David. I don't know what you're screaming at anymore.
There were some OTT moments, and this is just one of them. There's another one coming later in the movie that we'll talk about that is just kind of like, oh my God, really? That I found, I just found it to be crazy. Did you, when they were in the sewer trying to get out of the manhole, did you get any Chud vibes from that? Because I got Chud vibes from that a little bit.
Not the first time, not when the two of them. Although, yeah, I can see where you did that. Now, if we want to jump way to the end of the movie, I did say, he's trying to climb up because he's planted the bomb is counting down, and he's trying to climb out, and then this old lady parks on top of the manhole. Oh my
God, don't get me started on the old lady.
And so, no, then I do have a thought about that. I said, this is now the third movie that we have covered with an explosion and a vehicle on top of a manhole cover that are connected in some way to what's going on. It's a very strange and specific thing to have become a recurring thing to talk about on this podcast.
I know, but it is. With that going on, all I can think, okay, let's go back to Chud. That was just that was a Chud thing. Like, and there are more.
Yeah.
There are definitely more.
Oh, yeah. No, I'll talk about the other Chud thing. Because, again, when Marissa is down in the sewers with him, and she finds the dead dog in the sewer, she pulls on the collar, and the dead dog comes out and scares her.
I'm like, Chud!
And I was like, at least this one looks more like a dog, so, take notes, Chud.
Yeah. The whole thing about the growth hormones just took me back to, like, the radioactive stuff. The journalist going into the sewer and getting killed. Again... the team going into the sewer, although they did make it out this time. And then the manhole getting covered, and then the explosion. And then the annoying people, like the woman in the car. I just wanted... Marissa is nicer than me. I would have thrown her out of the car.
Right.
Probably. But, no, I wouldn't have. But Marissa jumps right in. She's not taking any chances.
Yeah, she's moving that car.
Yeah.
Which is good, because Ramon goes boom. And so does an innocent blue car by the storm drain. Minding its own business over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of great stuff. But yeah, it was a weird kind of reaction to Kelly's death was weird because it's like they're climbing and then like he gets pulled down. It was like the alligator. I mean, alligators can leap like that. That is legit. But then it was weird because then when we come back around to the end of the movie, it's like that alligator just stayed on the ground watching him. And it's like, I guess it's not going to jump out of there after you, just for Kelly, which I was a little upset because I wanted the alligator to eat the scientist, Arthur, next. He was next on my list. Yes. And then I was like, no, Ramon, you,
You missed an opportunity.
I know. Is that you're not supposed to kill Kelly, you naughty little dinosaur. You go back to your tunnel. Think about what you've done. I said the scientist. It was the wrong blonde guy.
Yes, exactly. Like I wanted him to go, and that's a whole other thing under Slade that we'll get to.
Yeah, we'll talk about all of that.
Oh man! Again, something that reminds me of Chud is the bad guy and what he's up to. Like It's all similar. So
it's a lot of,
Chud copied some of that formula, I think.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah, but, yeah, so this whole alligator thing after Kelly's death, and David is talking about, this giant alligator, and nobody really believes him at first, to where, again, this Kemp guy writes this, like, whole hit piece in the, like, journal newspaper about him, and, I did think there's a lot of like little funny things. I did appreciate the humor in this movie. Like one of the other cops, the guy just like reading the hit piece out loud to everybody. And then David like walks in and says something. So he stops. And then, then like the little like alligator hanging in his locker. And then like you can see everybody was like, yeah, that wasn't even a funny joke. That was just, they're like, we're all dicks for that, right? And it's like, yeah, oh well. Yeah. And then he walks out and then the guy just continues reading. And like, And then, like, little things that they, like, the, like, dangerous machinery or whatever poster that's on the locker behind the guy reading it looks like an alligator. And there's also a random dude getting naked in the background. There's so much happening in that scene.
I know. There was a lot to try to dissect in that one.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought the whole thing, too, when, after Kelly dies, and Madison ends up in the hospital. And then the reporter is there talking to the nurse who's just spilling all the information.
I know.
I actually had to go and look up, when did HIPAA
thing?
Because she's just talking about, he came in here and we just all a mess, and she tried to keep him from leaving the hospital, which happens always. People are always trying to leave.
Right.
No one wants to stay in the hospital. They got to go take care of business because who else is going to do it?
Right.
And at that point, I wrote down, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, we see him kind of planning, like, how do we do this? He got all his maps and stuff out. I have to give note to his impressive vinyl collection. Nice one, David. Good job. And yeah, so him and the captain, I believe, go and visit Marissa Kendall. It's here we see Dr. Kendall come back around, even though this is kind of the first time really talking about her too much. And I'll talk about more about their, interaction there and the lab later. But she's not super helpful because she's even, like, as the expert, like, that doesn't really make sense. It wouldn't be that big. Why would it be in the sewer? She's not thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I didn't understand because he takes the book and he goes home and he's, like, reading through the book, and when he flips it to the back and he goes, Marissa Kendall, what was that about? Because I was like, yeah, that was also her name when you talked to her in her office earlier that day. I'm sure there was a nameplate on the door and everything. I don't know why you're surprised. Like,
I know. I didn't understand that either.
I don't know why her name surprises you. It was a weird thing. And then she comes on the news while he's watching TV too, which I noticed behind him, while he's watching her on the news. And we see it whenever she's back in his apartment later. The Ramon Santiago poster behind him. I was like, props had a lot of fun with just, like, posters and stuff in this movie. They didn't. Because Ramon, like, it has to be Ramon. Just, but then we see whenever she's in the apartment and they're sitting on, like, the couch, the other side, there's, like, more Ramon Santiago stuff. And I was like, it just turns out he's a big Ramon Santiago fan. Lots of posters and stuff. I was like, I didn't really take him as an art guy, especially the kind of art guy who has a clear favorite artist.
I believe that was incredibly in your face, beating us with a hammer a little bit.
Yeah. So he comes up with this plan to, like, raid the sewers from all entrances and drive the alligator out through one exit. They send in the SWAT team, so today it's going to stand for Sewer Water Alligator Trackers. I
don't understand how they thought some dog catchers were going to catch the alligator. Because they all come up in their trucks and they're all dressed in their uniforms, and I'm just thinking, you're not going to be able to catch that thing. I don't know that it's safe for you to go down there to try to drive it out.
Right. So yeah, like, dog catchers, but then SWAT was in there. Which is crazy. Yeah, they said Sewer Water Alligator Trackers. That's what that stood for that day.
Yep. That's a good one.
And then while they're in there, he's talking with the captain, and the captain, they're talking about the alligator walks and goes, where did he go? And then David goes, where did he come from? That's what I'd like to know. And I was like, wait, are they still talking about the alligator, or have we moved on to Cotton Eye Joe? I'm not sure.
Maybe. This was long before the Redneck song came out.
Yes, but that is an old classic folk song even before that.
It is. That is true. That is true.
It is. But yeah, that plan turns out unfruitful. The alligator was like, Yeah, I really hate this local performance of Stomp. They're all offbeat and there's no rhythm, so I'm gonna hide in my corner until they leave because I hate it. No wonder this was free. They suck. So yeah, the alligator doesn't come out. And then all of the other stuff kind of, David puts pieces together and realizes kind of what's going on after talking to Slade and Arthur. And that's kind of, isn't it always kind of goes, as the detective starts finding the shady people responsible. You know, the growth hormones in the dogs from Slade's company causes the insatiable hunger that is in the alligator and its growth. And then it turns out that the mayor's working with them. And so because the mayor's working with him, who appoints the police captain? The mayor. So now the captain, to keep his job, has to like be in cahoots with him and fire the detective. Everyone is crooked, right? That's how it goes.
But there was one point around that time that the alligator actually came up. It was before he ate the cop. And all I could think is, look at him. He just wants to be friends. Mm-hmm. And nobody will be friends with him.
No.
That's not nice.
He wanted to go play baseball with those kids.
He did, and they wouldn't let him. That's just sad.
Yeah, no wonder he ate a bunch of people. I would too.
I thought one of the funniest things was when David Madison was walking through all of this hysteria around the alligator, and the guy's got like the piece of poster board with all the alligators stuck to it, the rubber ones, and he's shaking it, and he's like, see him shake him, see him shake, see him wiggle, take him home, make you giggle. And at that point, I lost it. Oh my gosh.
Man, the street vendors were real quick to like profit off of that situation. But then the one guy selling Alexander the alligator, and I'm like, it's Ramon, you dipshit. Like, yep. How dare you?
Exactly. Well, the only reason they know about the alligator is because Kemp went down and took photos of himself. Basically, he took photos while he was being consumed.
Talk about, like, dedication to your craft. Yeah. I will say that's impressive. Kemp, again, I'll talk about Kemp for a second, because I'll jump in some of the other character notes. Why not? Like I said, I mentioned he really wants to get punched in the face as much as he keeps bringing up the old partner to David. To where even when he comes back after Kelly's death and he's just like, another partner of yours is dead? It's like, dude, you're about to get socked.
There's a lot more going on here than a partner, losing a partner.
But then when he's
serious threat.
talking to that nurse and she's like, oh, and we gave him a bunch of meds. And he goes, meds? And she's like, medicine. And he's like, oh, it's like, you're a journalist. You've never heard the term meds before.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, this movie could also be called People Who All Suck at Their Jobs.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
But I will respect the hustle for Kemp in one way. Even before the alligator attack, he's rearranging the trash in the sewer to make, his pictures a little more aesthetic. I was like,
I know.
All right, I'll give you credit for that, I guess. But Ramon's not a big fan of his art style, so
no, he definitely is not. I'm just happy that he didn't bring like a cameraman or a photographer down to record anything, so that two people didn't end up dying, because it very well could have, because going down there was just not a good idea.
Yeah.
And it just took me back to Murphy, the journalist from Chud, and I'm like, Murphy had a clue. You just don't even know. You're missing the point of the story.
Right. But yeah, back to David Madison. Where was I? Yeah, so he's fired, lost his job because everyone is crooked. And that's why on his way out, he grabs the fake radio bomb and some dynamite so he can turn it into a real radio bomb. And then he also picks up a herpetologist on the way as well, right?
Yeah. Marissa.
Mm-hmm. And while they're talking, and then we learn that he's quite an art fan. But they have some interesting conversations. He tells her to shut up about the hair. But yeah, they tend to bond a little bit and have some close conversation. We do learn what happened to his old partner officially. Like, he tells the story to her, very vulnerable state there. And I have to agree with her. It's like, yeah, you really couldn't have done anything. Like, how would you know that things would play out that way? So I can see why he'd put the guilt on himself, but like, yeah, no, like, things like that are, what do you do in a situation like that? Because all he knows is he's gonna die if he makes a move. Like, yeah, in retrospect, sure, it'd be nice to know it was a roll of pennies, but you don't know that.
No, and I appreciated that he did get vulnerable with her. Mm-hmm. Like, he told her what happened, and he was just really raw about it. Because you don't see that. Usually it's the woman that's crying on the shoulder.
Yeah.
She didn't have the I need a shoulder to cry on vibe.
No, it was kind of more him. And I don't know how you feel about it. Like, they really pushed the, like, romance between the two. Maybe it was just me. I thought the romantic connection between the two of them was weird, and it never hit for me. I didn't vibe with it.
I wanted to vibe with it, but I honestly felt it was more on her side. Like, she was trying to make the romantic connection. And then when we met her mother, who she lives with, I'm sure she's probably trying to get out of the house. Although I would like to hope that she could get her own place. Or maybe that is her own place, and her mother is living with her. I don't know.
Yeah. I had no problem with either actor, but it was just like, I don't know, is the characters that they're playing, the way they're playing them, or if it's just Robert Forster and Robin Riker, just like, I saw no chemistry. I really didn't.
Yeah. And it would have been okay if they made them good friends, because we all know that you can be good friends and have intimacy, like, in your friendship. You don't have to be in a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
To be close. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that's the direction that all movies go in.
Yeah.
Well, not all, because we have gotten some that have been really surprising at the end, and you're just happy that they didn't go there.
Yeah. But then I skip over a lot of stuff in my notes, just because a lot of it I want to talk from the alligator's perspective, as far as when we're going down the little kind of creek, the river there, and we're wedding crashing and all of that. I kind of want to talk about from that perspective.
Oh my God.
As great as those were, it's really more alligator notes for me. But yeah, after the wedding is crashed and they followed the alligator through all of this, he's like, Storm Train. He's like, that's not my name. It's Marissa, remember? No, but they know where he's going, and they crawl back into the sewers. And was this person, like, supposed to be there as an extra? I don't know. I connect on the most random things sometimes, or I hyper-focus on them. But when he's climbing down into the manhole, and there's this old guy in, like, pajamas with his walker slowly crossing the street, and he's just staring at Robert Forster at David the whole time, I cracked up so hard. I was laughing so hard at it, just the sheer randomness of it. I mean, this guy was just, like, steel eyeing him as, like, slowly walking by, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like,
maybe he's like one of those people who stands and shakes his cane and says, get off my lawn.
But it was just,
I mean, that could be it.
Like, I think he's just supposed to be some random extra crossing the street behind them, but, like, all my attention was pulled to this old man. And I don't. Moving slower than molasses with a hateful glint in his eye. I don't know it.
Back in my day, I would have had more victims than the alligator. I don't know. Maybe he is a closeted serial killer, and he hates that the alligator is stealing his thunder. I don't know.
I don't know, but I don't know what it was, but it just cracked me up. This so random. Like, what? Who is this guy? Why? But yeah, David climbs down the ladder, and I'm pretty sure it's the exact same ladder and tunnel that they've used in several other parts of this movie that are supposed to be different parts of the sewer system. They really got a lot of use out of that one small set, didn't they?
You use what you got.
Yeah.
Okay, you know that.
Mm-hmm. But then, yeah, the methane gas, as he lures the alligator into that, and that's what I was like, the gas explosion story that Kelly had told him. I was like, it all full circle. Nice one. I like that. Or maybe he told Kelly that story. But yeah, either way. And then I talked about the explosion because I was like, it doesn't happen too often, but is it weird that this exact situation with manholes being covered by cars and explosions has been in 3 movies now? It's not a lot, but it's weird that it's been that many.
And I'm sure there are more.
Right.
I'm so sure that there are more that we have not even we haven't dove into yet. So there's more.
It's like that meme. It's like, if I had a nickel for every time this has happened, it's like, I'd have 15 cents, which isn't a lot, but it's crazy that it's happened 3 times.
Well, think about inflation. If you take 15 cents from back then and add inflation, like, what is that today? Because I'm just not sure.
But that's my thoughts on David. If you have any more.
Nope, this is a Marissa note. So I do think that is great for David notes.
Nice. Yeah, so Marissa would be next. I said this movie really starts focused on somebody else, and that's really her as a young girl. This alligator farm. I was like, yeah, nothing says fun for the whole family, like watching a guy get mauled by an alligator, and then a bunch of dudes running in and beating said alligator with whatever blunt instruments they could find.
I know.
And who knew that people had chicken cutlets in their legs? It's wild.
I know. That was so bad. That was so bad. Oh my gosh. But you've been to an alligator farm, haven't you?
I have. And nobody was doing that. No, they would feed them, but like not from inside the enclosure with them. Like people are, well, I'm not going to say people are smarter nowadays, but they're stupid in different ways. There's more safety in stupidity. No, but especially selling alligators, baby alligators, to just random kids and people, like, that's totally not a terrible idea at all. And I actually had to go on like a little Google search about that one. Apparently that was a common occurrence back in the day, in like
what?
Like the 1800s all the way up to like the 1950s. Apparently, yeah, like state fairs and alligator farms and all over. You could just buy baby alligators and sell them to any random person. But that was stopped federally in 1967 when the American alligator was added to the endangered species list.
Thank goodness.
Then we see later, because David turns the guy trying to sell the baby alligator to him into his cop friends by being like, yeah, get this guy. And then he even mentions the endangered species, trying to traffic an endangered species. And so in 67, they were added to the list, which then made me wonder, because after little Marissa brings this baby alligator home, with no water in the tank, by the way, you're torturing the poor thing. The news broadcast on the TV mentions the 1968 Democratic Convention. So selling baby alligators should have already been illegal at this time. These people are criminals. All I'm asking is we lock this little girl up.
Oh, no, you're not. You know that you're not doing that. It's not her fault.
She's a monster and a menace to society. Lock her up.
No. You know that you don't mean that. It's not her fault. Her father got it for her.
Lock them all up. She's an accomplice.
He can get locked up. He's a problem.
Right.
He started this whole mess.
He flushed the alligator for reason that was incoherently screamed, I think, so I'll never know.
Oh, that's terrible.
But then he flushes it and thinks I'm dizzy now.
You know what? I should have known from watching this without having to be told that Marissa is the same as a little girl, like she's all grown up, because of the way the mother acted in this movie, like when Marissa was older, because it's the same, like, okay, yes, she's just as loud and just as annoying.
Yeah, no, but then when we meet Marissa later in the lab, because the next time we see her grown up, and David and the captain come in to her office there, and grown-up Marissa is supposed to be the reptile expert at the university now, right? The leading authority, as the captain says. She needs to be fired immediately. After a line where she says, "Oh, I have a few non-poisonous species," talking about the snakes. Poisonous, Marissa? Really? Get out. Pack your things. Leave. This is what happened because we didn't lock you up back in '68 for buying the baby alligator in the first place. You continued down your path of crime, and now you're calling snakes poisonous as an expert. What have we done? What have we done?
We've been over that on this podcast.
Yes.
We have talked about this how many times?
I know. It's one of those weird, like, it's one of those smaller things. But the second she's like, oh, and I have non-poisonous. And I was like, and you're the expert? Get out. You would never. No.
Well, and we saw that she did have some in her house because there was a tank right by the bed.
Yeah.
When she and Madison dropped right onto it.
Before anybody comes into our comments and feedback with a pushing glasses up on my nose that don't exist. Well, actually, yes, I know there are poisonous snakes, which would mean that non-poisonous snakes exist, but that's a very small, niche subspecies thing. There are snakes that can secrete a poison out of their skin, but but when people say poisonous and mean venomous, which is definitely what was going on here.
Yeah.
Fix yourself.
Yes. Well, she doesn't believe that it's an alligator.
Yeah.
Like she's pretty honest. She's like, no, I don't see how they could survive for a myriad of different reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, the food source situation, which we find out, that somebody's been feeding it unknowingly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's got all kinds of superpowers from whatever growth hormones and things are in those dogs.
I wondered why nothing else got bigger down there.
Right. Some mega rats, yeah.
We saw these rats chewing on a dog.
Yeah, that should have been the sequel. The spinoff was like the mega rats.
Well, maybe it's not too late, and you can direct it, Pake.
Let's do it.
There is a movie about rats called Deadly Eyes that I'm also holding on to.
Might have to go there.
I am not going to tell you the one thing about it that makes it even more ridiculous, because I'm saving it for when we cover it.
All right. Sounds perfect. Yeah. So while they're outside the sewers with that whole, local production of Stomp trying to bring it out, and she talks about the baby alligator that she had and that it died. She never knew it was flushed. Doesn't know it's the same one. But then she calls it, and his name was Ramon. And I was like, really? You remember the name of the baby alligator you had for 12 hours? She does. It's a great memory.
It's amazing what people remember.
Right.
Do you remember every pet you've ever had?
Probably.
Yeah.
I'd have to think about it, but I also never had one for 12 hours. I had a hermit crab for I don't remember if I ever named that. I don't think. I don't dogs, sure, but yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
But and then I talked about the dead dog that actually looks like a dog, so they did that better than Chud. Also in American Werewolf, and now here, when she walks into David's apartment and it's just can I get rid of this jacket somewhere? And I'm like, no, just set it down. You don't have to get rid of it. You can pick it back up and keep it when you leave. Jeez, why do people want to get rid of jackets so badly in these movies?
It must have been something on it, though. I mean, that's probably what it was. But she had to take a shower at a man's house, and she's only known him for what? A day? Mm-hmm. She's already
on
showering
a school night, even.
I know. She has to remind her mother, Mom, I'm the teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it reminds me of this stupid little meme thing that I saw. It was somebody waking up in a panic in the morning and going, "Oh God, I'm late for school. Oh wait, I'm 30. I graduated school. Oh shit, I'm the teacher."
Have you ever had a dream that you were back in school?
All the time. It is still a recurring dream. And it's high school or college. And I'm back on the first day. And I have this weird list of my classrooms. I have to be at this class at this time. And I don't know where any of them are. And I'm having to traverse all across campus with 5 minutes to try to find this classroom. And I'm in full stress panic mode. It is a very, very normal recurring dream. I haven't been in high school or college let's see, 13, 14, 15 years. I know.
My dream is that I get a phone call that I have to go back to high school because they misread my credits and I'm a credit short. I don't know why, but that's what happens. I'm like, no, I'm not going back. Yeah.
No, I'm good. I don't need it. I've made it this far. I don't need that credit, I guess. I'm good.
No, don't need it.
I'm doing fine without it.
Yeah, that's the ridiculous dream that I have.
So I do have to go back to school next week, or the next couple of weeks, whenever I really want to. But in a way different. I don't have to be there for any other reason, just to hang out with people. So I'm good with that.
I think you could have gotten up and gone there today. It seems like you were up early enough.
Yeah, I would have. But I gotta get in touch with all that. But yep, starting that back up. But yeah, school year. It's happening again. Craziness. I don't miss it. Do not miss it. No. But yeah, that's really all I guess I had that I've talked about, like other Marissa stuff before. Just that, yeah, I like her really taking that initiative where she's like, move your damn car. Fine, I'll get in and move it for you.
I did, like when Marissa and David were talking about, how to combat the alligator. And she says, I could bring my mother. She could talk him to death. Yeah, I thought that was funny. Yeah, and she did know that Ramon was going to go for water. Like, she knew. Mm-hmm. She was very smart. I mean, but she did wait until they had the photo proof before she said, yes, it's an alligator. And then she told the world it was an alligator. And no one was questioning her.
Yeah.
I mean, how many movies have we covered that the scientist goes on and tells the truth and then people ridicule him or her and make them feel like they're stupid and that it's not real. And then it turns out it is real. It was cool to see that in this movie, that people just kind of listened.
Yeah, that was nice. People that listen, except for the other people who are like, but my money and my job if I listen, so then I won't. But that's a whole different thing. So yeah, if you've got more thoughts about Marissa, see what they are, and if not, then I've got just random notes about random characters.
No, I think I'm good. Other than I just want to say she was pretty strong.
Yeah.
Not tough in a way of fighting, but strong in just she knew who she was.
Yeah.
And she wasn't apologizing for it. And she wasn't afraid to push a woman over and get in her car and move it. Yeah. I mean, she got stuff done.
Yeah.
When it needed to get done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was very intelligent as well. But then also she's like, I'm also working on like 3 other projects right now. So like, let's wrap this shit up.
Yep.
I'm busy.
She's got stuff to do.
Yeah, I liked her a lot. So yeah, just random characters. Some of the characters I just didn't like, and then just other random ones. So yeah, Gotchel, this pet store owner. He's just picking pets up off the street and giving them to this scientist, Arthur, to run experiments on, and then dumps the bodies into the sewer. I was like, well, I have a nominee for next alligator victim. And
I know, he's talking to them like, this is not exactly the Nile. Got to get you suckers moving. And I'm just like, you're so cruel. You need to go.
Yeah. And then Ramon takes him out first. And I was like, so is the alligator supposed to be the monster of this movie? Because I don't know, after nomming on the pet store guy, I'm pretty sure Ramon's the hero of this movie.
Yes.
Yes. So I was like, thank you for completing that wish, you scaly superhero. Next, do the scientist guy. Mm-hmm. And then Slade, the old guy who runs the company. Just, you've got some work ahead of you, so be free, murder happily. I support you, Ramon. Alligator power.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah, well, there was one person that I felt really, really needed to go. Almost from the time we met him. And that was Colonel Brock. And I have to tell you, he had no charisma. He was absolutely so wooden. The things that he said were ridiculous.
Yeah, I had one kind of wrap-up note on, like, his introduction and then, like, him talking to different people. So, oh, look, they brought in a misogynistic big game hunter guy. Nothing could go wrong with that. And it's like, he is laughable at how douchey he is.
Oh my God. Hitting on the women? Like, how is this, pretty girl? Or, well, if I couldn't get myself killed while chasing it. And an alligator is a very romantic creature.
He's like making these like alligator. And she's like, you can even tell the lady's like trying not to laugh at him. Like, oh, that's great. Like,
he's a wild animal, not a submarine. Oh my God.
But yeah, even whenever he's talking to Marissa and is like, who are you supposed to be? Basically, and she's like, I'm the herpetologist. I'm the like reptile expert. And he's like, oh, well, then you go play with your books and I'll go do my thing because I'm the man and you're the woman. It's like, yeah, I don't see him lasting long.
No. And then we have the alligator stool incident where you get to see the poop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found him so ridiculous. All I did was laugh and just wait for him to go. I just wanted him to go so bad. And he gets this little group of people to go with him.
Mm-hmm.
One of them calls him Jungle Jim, or I don't know who somebody called him Jungle Jim. And
yeah,
I thought that was kind of funny.
I didn't know if I should include this note, but then I'm like, people know me well enough. So yeah, I said he got him some urban jungle guides. And then I was like, that's a play off of the term urban jungle, not to be taken in a bad way. Don't cancel me, please.
Well, he had to give them, $10, except for the one guy he gave $20 to. Which I'm just like, okay, you guys don't know what you're getting into. Ramon is not going to have any of this. So he goes into the alley with this big bad gun and he shoots at Ramon, but Ramon takes care of him.
Yeah.
And I cheered.
Got eaten and was a total failure. Shocker.
They always are.
Yeah. I just have like a random like thoughts about the little boy that was like in the group playing baseball and then like runs into his mom. Joey, his mom was calling him, and I was like, he's like, this monstrous alligator just ripped a guy's leg off, so I'm gonna go in the kitchen and grab a knife, and I'm gonna show this motherfucker what's what. And it's like, yeah, sure you are, dude.
And his mom is yelling at him for taking her knife.
I know. And then he goes out, and then like when Marissa is questioning him, and David walks up, and he's talking about like how big the alligator's gotten, he's like Eldorado, he's like, no, not in a car. Like he's just, I was like, this is a sassy little guy, ain't he?
Yep. Yes, he definitely was. But honestly, watching him go in and interact with his mother and have his mother on the phone and like disregarding him, that is so typical of that time frame. Yeah. Because moms were all about being on the phone and gossiping.
Right.
It wasn't
There's a killer alligator out there. That's nice. Have fun, honey.
Yeah. No interest in it because she's too busy getting the scoop on what's going on in the neighborhood. And that's exactly, I know now we've transitioned to cell phones and other things, but that's how it was. You had a phone, it had a cord, you would twist the cord and get it all messed up, but you were on that phone getting the scoop about what's going on in the neighborhood.
And then, not a whole lot of thoughts about like Slade and stuff left. I'm sure you have more.
Oh my God.
But yeah, we learn the wedding. He's got this whole wedding set up. We see the like scene of it. It's just like he's like kind of throwing orders around and everything's got to go right. And I'm like, well, this is gonna get alligatored. Clearly, let's foreshadow that. And yes, we learn that Arthur, the shady scientist, is marrying Slade, the shady businessman's daughter. So I'm sure she's super shady too. Why not? And then Shady Mayor covers their tracks about the ties to the alligator situation because Slade is funding him. And, these 4 products that he has to keep talking about, the 4 products, they seem very lucrative. So
Slade is only out for himself. He didn't have any interest in or worry about his daughter. When he was running to the limousine, he wouldn't even let the mayor in the limousine.
Right.
With him, which it worked out, not for either of them really, because the mayor gets chomped on, and good old Ramon uses his tail.
Yeah, to just tail whipping bitches left and forth, left and right, back and forth.
Godzilla would be proud, for sure. Yes, I love that, but there were parts of it where people were flying through the air, and it just seemed like they were going faster and further than they ever
into the pool, into the cake, into the pool.
It was like they were just randomly throwing people, and it wasn't the alligator doing it. People were just flying. It's like they jumped on a trampoline and then went flying on the other side. It was kind of crazy.
It was ridiculous, but it was a super fun just sequence of chaos.
Oh my God, it was great.
Nobody was safe. He's like, fly, there's a soup in my waiter. It had some tiramisu for dessert, so.
Yes, for sure. The other thing I have for a note is Donald's birthday party. And the poor little boy, they're playing pirates, and this little boy is made to walk the plank.
Yeah, that got really fucking dark really fast.
Yes, it did.
It was like, well, these kids just fed their little brother to an alligator in the pool.
Yep.
They really took playing pirate to a whole new level. They were in character.
And he saw, the poor little boy, like, could see and saw the alligator before they pushed him in.
Mm-hmm.
That was even worse. I'm like, oh my God.
He got Alex Kintnered.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Yes, he did. R.I.P. little boy with no name.
Donald.
No, it was Donald's party.
Oh, I thought that's who he was.
I don't think it was.
I don't know.
I don't know for sure.
Who cares?
It's interesting because there were a couple of different versions of this movie that were in theaters. Like, there's a UK theatrical cut. The BBFC wanted the scenes of gore to be chopped down. Like legs being bitten off, the car, victims being eaten alive during the garden party, and to remove one instance of the word fuck, because they wanted to get an A rating. The cuts were all waived, though, in 91, when the certificate was raised to A15, and all subsequent releases of the film are completely uncut now, which is great. So, you were talking a few minutes ago about the SWAT team. Mm-hmm. When they were filming that, evidently it looked so real that people in the neighborhood actually called the police. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
One of your, there's this one show that you watch called, it's Breaking Bad. Mm-hmm. And the lead actor, Bryan Cranston, actually worked on this movie.
Really?
He was a production assistant.
That's cool.
In special effects. And he was in charge of rigging the alligator guts for the end.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. Joe Dante was supposed to direct this one, but he turned it down. I wonder what he would have done with it. Like, I'm curious, but I'm also fine with it being left the way it is. So James Horner, who was this big name composer now, like we know him from some of his previous work, he was supposed to do the whole score for the movie, but then he couldn't do it because of a strike. Kind of like what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I have a couple random other things. So a guy just got his legs ripped off and the whole boat was exploded. So we better send divers into the water to check it out. They'll be fine.
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
Which they were, but still, I don't know if that was a great choice.
It takes me back to Lake Placid.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of.
And then lastly, on character things, I keep saying the captain the whole time. That's not what he was. He was the chief, police chief.
Yeah.
But Chief Clark, because I had an impression of him that I just recorded on my phone. And if this doesn't pick up for you, I'll show it to you later. But I'll probably pick up on my recording. So I just recorded myself with my incredible Chief Clark impression. So yeah, there's that.
Oh,
I'll play it for you better later, but it should pick up.
Good. I like it. That's great.
So there's my Chief Clark impression.
I wasn't sure what he was trying to do with that.
I don't. He's just yelling at everybody incoherently in this weird gravelly. I'm like, okay, sure, dude.
Yeah, there were a lot of similar. I mean, we talked about this being part of the movies that were spawned because of Jaws. And you can see a lot of those similarities because you've got, like, the shark and the alligator, you've got, like, the cop, which is, like, Chief Brody, and Marissa is, like, Hooper, and Silva is, like, Quint, and, you know, you've got the creepy mayor, and the villain. I mean, it all is very, very similar.
Yeah.
To what we saw in Jaws.
So that is character notes. And then, yeah, I've got like a section on Ramon. I've thrown some of them in. But yeah, I mean, just the forever fun sewer gator urban legend. Of course, they made an entire movie about it.
They had to.
I'd never heard of this movie until you mentioned covering it. Like, this was not on my radar of things that existed at all. So this was cool.
Pake. I have so many movies like this that I've just been saving and just peppering them in when we really need one that's going to give us a little levity, because, like I said, the last couple movies we've covered have been these very deep discussions.
Yeah. And
so I wanted us to have something that was a little less intense for this week.
Yeah, it worked. Maybe I do know why he killed Kelly, Officer Kelly, because you see he's kind of annoyed where Kelly's dropping the bricks off of that like one little ledge, and he's like, "Who's dropping bricks into my swamp?" You know, he wasn't happy about that, so maybe that's why. There's a fun little moment with David and Kelly stopping to look at the map and the outline of like the sewer, and the flashlight catches a little someone hanging out behind them for a second. I like those little things. I really like those moments a lot.
You know, you were talking about the urban legend. Well, the urban legend kind of came from like the 60s. There was a mail order company which put little advertisements in comic books about, you know, selling baby alligators. And the parents often flush them down the family toilet. So that's where it started.
Yeah.
That's where this came from. That was the actual legend. I didn't know about it until I did a little bit of research in this.
Yeah. Let's see. I've made up some of these. Yeah, the alligator busting up out of the storm drain was a little rough. Not bad by 1980 standards, I guess. You know, him being like, "Well, I'm here to bust up your little baseball game, you twerps." Or maybe, as we just said earlier, maybe he wanted to join. He was like, "I can see you need a catcher!" And they ran away.
I don't know. I think he could be a batter.
Yeah.
He can use that tail. Yeah. I mean, he's really good with his tail, so why couldn't he hit the ball?
Yeah. And then that police officer that shows up after that really had a flair for the dramatic, didn't he? He's like, "Oh no, kids in the road. I must swerve aggressively into parked cars and cause an explosion. And
yes.
No, now I'm locked in my metal car where the alligator could never reach me. Let me crawl out the window to make this more deadly for myself. Here you go. Ah!"
He should have gotten away there. That is ridiculous. Like, he should have been able to get away.
"Let me just crawl out and lay on the ground in front of you and go, oh no!"
And then he'll eat me up. No, that was just dumb. That, like, I just kind of... I actually wrote a note down saying, what the hell was that guy doing?
I know.
He should have just stayed where he was.
I know. I think he was
crazy.
Trying to feed himself to the alligator. He's like, "Finally, a way out of this dead-end job. Oh! Man. So I guess through filming a lot of these things, I could tell. I didn't look it up because that's your job. No, I'm kidding. So I'm guessing they just let a regular-sized or probably even smaller alligator just walk around through little sets of miniatures to film a lot of the, like, in-the-city scenes, which... That's kind of what it seemed like when he's walking down the street, like bumping into cars and like benches, and I'm it's a smaller alligator that's just like they have much miniature versions of things that he's walking through this like little set that they built, I'm sure. Or even like at the end, whenever David sees him coming through the tunnel, and it's like, well, it's a small built tunnel with a small alligator. You can tell it's a small alligator walking through this tunnel, and they just make it, you think it's the big tunnel that David's looking in. Practical effects.
Yes. So in order to create this illusion of the giant alligator, they used a full-scale model that was created by Ben Stansbury. And then it had a more elaborate head and tail sections for those specific action sequences that we saw with, like,
Yeah.
People flying
like
through
you
the
could
air.
tell an animatronic at some points, but then there were other shots where it's
Yeah.
like, it's a live alligator. It's just in a smaller set with nobody else there.
Yeah, they use real alligators on mini sets, basically, which you were just talking about. They use, like, these optical enlargements to try to make it look bigger, but, yeah, it definitely, that was part of it.
And then, yeah, the discarded dogs from the lab, which, yeah, we find out pretty quickly, you know, they're full of these growth hormones from the experiments, and that's what Ramon has been eating, and he's a growing boy, and really growing, and still growing, to the size of an El Dorado, apparently.
Yes. Or bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't include the tail.
No. And then there's all these police combing the streets, and they're flying search helicopters, and it's like, he's just chilling in the pool having hot gator summer. That's what he's trying to do. And eating children. And then after that, apparently he can teleport, because he went from a suburban swimming pool to a city alley real fast.
Well, you know, he went through the Varys school of teleportation. Like on Game of Thrones. Yeah. He did that.
Yeah, so, yeah, whatever these growth hormones, maybe they gave him teleportation powers, and also, I guess, some of the stuff from the lab made him bulletproof.
You never know what's in that cocktail.
Yeah.
It's quite cool. And
again, these cops and their exploding vehicles, so dramatic. It's an alligator, not a ramp. Come on, boat guys. And as one of the guys who, like, fell out of the boat as it ramped over him is swimming, and he's like, oh no, get me out of here. And then they have the alligator swimming from underneath him, and I was like, that is some great rip-off Jaws music.
Of course it is. All I can think of is they're going to pull him in, and it's going to be half of a person. It's going to be like Placid. That's what we're going to see. And again, this came out long before Lake Placid. So... Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, talked about the wedding crashing, and then the alligator's so sad death. Oh, poor Ramon.
Yeah, but we get the hope of a future.
Yeah, a new baby alligator is dropped in the sewer to start all over again, because it's the circle of life, right?
Of course.
Radioactive alligators. Yeah.
Yeah. All I could think of is the cycle's going to repeat itself, and we'll be back again in 12 years to deal with this again.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
However, yeah, I only have a couple of things, like, a tabletop game was released in 1980. Also, Quentin Tarantino said that Robert Forster's character of Max Cherry from the film Jackie Brown was inspired by David Madison. And as I said just a little bit ago, there is a sequel, Alligator 2, The Mutation, was directed by John Hess and does not follow these same characters at all. And it was released on June 5th, 1991.
Interesting.
And if we cover it, which I think we should, because I want to hold on to it just for, you know, the perfect time when we're going to need something. I mean, they have people credited in this movie as Wino Henry and a couple of wrestlers even. So there are some things going on.
Have you seen it?
I have seen it.
Or would it be a first for both? Okay.
I have seen it. Oh, Pake. I have seen it. I've got some gems like this that I've just been holding on to for just like this. I don't think you've been disappointed yet with anything. I think it's been fun.
Sounds like a fun time.
I do think, though, that the next movie, when we go down this road again, we need to cover that one that your dad suggested, because I feel like he's waiting for us to. And we've recorded like over 140 episodes, and we still haven't touched it.
Yeah, I told him we were doing this one tonight, and he was like, but you still won't do Boggy Grease. We'll get to you, Dad. We'll get to you.
I feel like he's setting the bar so high for my expectations now. Because he said it was so scary, and I'm just thinking, how can it be scarier than some of the ones we've already covered? So I'm curious, but I won't watch it until we cover it. So we can get like that initial reaction from the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. I think that's
we did it. Alligator is done. It's covered. We've done it.
Yeah, I don't know what movie that is. It's Alligator.
Alligator is the like robotic android version, right?
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. I like that. Oh, look, there's the feedback phone to stop the awkwardness. All right.
Thank you, feedback phone, for coming in at just the right time.
Other people might have said. We'll see. All right, we do have some feedback this week for Alligator, but before we get into that, we actually did hear from a few of you, because if you follow us over on socials, specifically Facebook and such, you did see that we had a post up that it is our 3-year anniversary this week. We've officially hit 3 years since we posted the first episode where we covered Tremors. So yeah, we hit a milestone for sure, and we made a little post about that, and some of you were so awesome to give us a little bit of thoughts and feedback on that 3-year anniversary. We appreciate that. So I'll read a couple of those. This first one from Mary Lee says, I love that you covered Dawn of the Dead 1978 and 2004 back to back. All sorts of zombie fun. Congratulations and thank you for 3 years of great pods. Aw, thank you.
Aw, thank you so much, Mary Lee. Barbie said, love so many, but standouts for me are A Quiet Place and The Ritual.
Nice. Going back, those are old school. We're going back to season 1, early episodes. That's like episodes 6 and 7, I think.
Yeah, they're in the first 10 that we did.
Which, yeah, so good. Quiet Place 3 and a day 1 prequel. I think there's 2 Quiet Place movies on the horizon eventually.
And you know who to come to when you want to hear about them, because we will cover them on Run for Your Lives.
Yes. And then Wendy says, so hard to choose favorites, but I love your end of the season episodes. Yeah, those look back specials. This one this season might be extra special, but you're going to have to wait to find out more about that when we get there, because we've still got 6 or so movies to get through before we get there.
Yes, we do. Well, moving on to Alligator, Sam says, OMG, this movie terrified me as a child. The party pool massacre scene still haunts me. Agreed. Being born and raised in Miami didn't help this fear for me. Totally get that. My mom ran over an alligator with her car while my sister and I were in it. Oh my goodness. No blood or anything, but the underside of her car was bent and trashed. In Car versus Alligator, the dinosaur one.
Yeah, I can imagine. I've seen a truck really messed up from running over a big old alligator snapping turtle, so I could just imagine what a actual American alligator, the big one, could do to a car. Man, which I keep waiting to see an alligator trying to cross the road at work, because I know there's one right there in the cove by where I work, but sometimes he pops around. But
as long as he doesn't come in and ask to borrow a cup of sugar, I think you're okay.
Yeah, then I think we're good. We're good. Yeah. And lastly, here we have a message from Mark about Alligator. It says, absolute classic. Must have been around 96-ish when I watched this, 12 years old, and watched about 5 creature films with my brothers and sister, including Arachnophobia, Birds, and one of my personal favorites, Monster Squad.
You know what? Nice. We've talked about Monster Squad before. It's come up in suggestions from people. I've got a particular guest in mind for that episode.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Good to hear from you. Mark, I think this is the first time I've heard from this person, so great to hear from you. If you're new, if you haven't gone back and checked out older stuff, that we actually have covered the Birds and Arachnophobia. So those are episodes you can go back in the backlog and find. Haven't done Monster Squad yet, but yes, like Daphne just said, it'll happen eventually. We just got to get the timing right with a very specific guest. I think is perfect for it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, if you would like to submit feedback like Mary Lee, Barbie, Wendy, Sam, or Mark, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Run for Your Lives Podcast. You can find us on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it now, at
Twitter forever.
RFYL.
Just Twitter forever. We'll never call it X.
I've started calling it Twitter X. I but then it sounds like
that. It just sounds like a Twitter for porn, and that's
yeah. No. It's not right. But you can find us over there at our FYL podcast. You can email us, runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. If you're enjoying the show, tell your friends. We are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, pretty much all other podcast players, including YouTube, which is now becoming a home for podcasts. They've got some new tools out there for us. You can go to runforyourlivespodcast.com for all the links that you'll ever need, and give us a review on Apple Podcasts, as that's the best way to share the love and get us out there even more. We really appreciate it.
Yes, we do. Absolutely. And speaking about sharing the love, of course, give some shout outs to things going on in the podcast universe around us. Because other than runforyourlivespodcast.com, you can also check out podcastica.com for any updates on our podcast and others in our network, including my other podcast, Range Indeed. You can go back to some, backlog, speaking of backlog, for some Strange Indeed stuff, because we recently, like this year, we've covered Midnight Club, You, and then we just wrapped Black Mirror recently. So those things out. We're still on a little hiatus right now until October, where we will be covering The Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix when that drops, and I'm so excited for more Flanagan. But
it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
It really is.
But we're kind of taking a little downtime until then. However, stay tuned to this podcast. You just might hear my co-host over there, Rima, sooner than you think over here. Who knows?
I know. I'm excited for that.
Yeah. But other great stuff over on Podcastica. Of course, the Star Wars TV cast going with Ahsoka, which episode 3 will be up this week with Jonathan, James, and Kristen breaking down Ahsoka. I'm excited to hear what they say about episode 3. Not giving too much away, but I thought there was some great stuff, some great characters that showed up, and interesting story things that I'm ready to hear them talk about. And then the cast of us getting ready for the Daryl Dixon TV show. So they did a special episode, Lucy and Jason kind of doing a little top 5 top topics kind of episode, talking about their favorite things about Daryl Dixon, and then they ranked all of the seasons of The Walking Dead on this episode as well. So some more Walking Dead and Daryl Dixon conversations to get ready for that show.
Pake, what season of The Walking Dead is your favorite?
Oh, man.
I know mine. There's no question.
Let's see. I don't know. That's really hard because they're all such different flavors. But, I don't know. It's hard. Like, they're all very different. Like, it's on the spot. I don't know if I can give you a dead set favorite. I don't know.
Yeah. Mine is season 5.
Mm-hmm. So I was thinking.
My favorite episode ever was in season 5. I liked the story. I like the direction. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed season 5.
Probably.
Yeah.
They all have their own flavors. They're all good things.
I can tell you what the lowest ones on my list would be. 7 and 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, we'll be jumping back into the Walking Dead world with Daryl soon, so get ready for that. Also, the White Lotus coverage over there with Welcome to the White Lotus. They're going back over seasons 1 and 2, so this week they are covering episode 5 of season 1, and that is Jason, Randy, and Jenny over there talking about that show. Just started it this week. Finally. People have been talking about it. I'm only in like episode 3 as the last one I saw of season 1, so still got a ways to go. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. A very dry, uncomfortable humor. It's just, yeah, it's an interesting show for sure. So check out their coverage to talk about that if you're a fan of that, or if you want to check it out and start watching along with them. The Revisited podcast with Ben and Kristen. They are on episode 15 of season 6 of Lost. So they are almost done with Lost, just 2 episodes left. And then the next series they jump into is Ted Lasso. It's going to be so great. Love that show so much. Yeah, it just ended this year, but never too early for Revisited.
I know. I love that show so much. I just think about how during the pandemic it just made things just a little better when trying to deal with all that craziness.
Yep. And lastly, for Podcastica, Good Omens, which the season 2 finale, episode 6, is up this weekend. You can go listen to that right now with John and Derek covering that. I haven't watched it yet, but I will be watching it right after recording this. So by the time you're hearing this, yeah, I've watched the finale and I'm listening to John and Derek talk about it with all their brilliance. So I'm excited for that. Yeah, and they're doing it as a joint effort with Podcastica, because usually John and Derek, you know, them TV podcast industries, they've been doing stuff strong over there. So that's on their feed over there as well with Good Omens. And they're also covering Ahsoka as well. So big Star Wars fans like me and a lot of others. So definitely check out their coverage as well. But for this podcast right here, Run for Your Lives, you know you can always come back next week for another good movie. What do we got for them, Daphne?
Well, as a massive comet hurtles toward Earth, threatening to unleash an extinction-level event, humanity races against time to devise a plan to avert the impending collision. Tensions rise and personal stories intertwine, revealing resilience and sacrifice. We are going to discuss the 1998 film Deep Impact. It's directed by Mimi Leder. It stars Elijah Wood, Téa Leoni, Morgan Freeman, and Robert Duvall, among others.
Yeah. Let's definitely check that out next week. Give us your feedback if you have seen that one and have thoughts, or want to go back and rewatch, or even like me with a lot of movies on this podcast, finally watch something for the first time. So yeah, we'd like to know your thoughts for sure.
Oh, definitely. And with that, we've reached the end of our episode. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run, you better run for your lives.
Bye-bye.